And again, we're continuing our um, discussion, our look at the Queen of Soul, the divine Miss Aretha Franklin, her life and her recent timely transition. And that transition we saw was the passing or the transition of the natural woman that occurred very timely manner, perfect timing, once we look at it, to create a void or a vacuum for the rise of the organic woman. And we're going to be focusing in on this going forward. We won't go over and repeat what we did um, over the past few days relative to this, but we want to add a little bit more detail to that's going to help us understand the divine feminine and this allegorical and actual plummet to the lowest realms unto infinite power. The divine feminine and the allegorical and actual plummet to the lowest realms unto infinite power. To understand what I just said and to lead us into this study, take a look again at this Zen saying that we introduced, I believe it was on yesterday, that states water finds its greatest power by seeking its lowest point. Water finds its greatest power by seeking its lowest point. Um, just reading that and trying to get an understanding, that's a very esoteric statement, Nasi.
Yes, it is.
And if you have no understanding of esoteric knowledge and the particular symbols that are located here, the central symbol, uh, allegorical symbol being water in this case, then you would just be looking at this on a natural, physical, uh, material basis, and not really water finds its greatest power by seeking its lowest point. What does that mean? You know, but if you understand, you have an understanding of the esoteric or occult or hidden meaning that surrounds the word water, then this statement is a very powerful statement. And it has to do with this plummet of the divine feminine to the lowest realm of the physical material world that would um, become that that sinking to the lowest depths would become a power position for the divine feminine. So this is a very powerful statement. Water finds its greatest power, family, greatest power, seeking its lowest point, going to the lowest depth. And this has to do with the emanation, our emanation as divinity into the realms of duality, into the realms of physical human form, material form, and finding our through multiple incarnations, descending to the point where we are now. All right, descending to the point that we are now, and Kabbalistically speaking, we are at the absolute lowest point. which is called the age or the ion of Malkuth, or the kingdom age. The kingdom age. Are you all with me?
Yes.
So, water, in this case, the Hebrew, we're going to decode it, and we begin with the Hebrew. The Hebrew, um, the letter Mem, which is the 40th, uh, it has the numeric value in numerology or gematria of 40. It is the name of the letter is Mem, and you spell it Mem Sofit, uh, consonantally, Mem and Mem Sofit. The word for water in Hebrew follows that consonantal pattern. In the word mayim, which begins with mem and ends with mem sofit, or final mem. In English, the word mom follows that same consonantal pattern, and the word ma'am, all right, and the word mama, same consonantal pattern. So water is associated allegorically, esoterically, with the divine feminine, all right? And what we must understand from a holistic standpoint and from a scientific and biological standpoint, that when you have the woman, when you put the woman on view, or the feminine on view, or the divine female or the divine feminine on view, you automatically include the male, because
Right.
because incorporated in the female, so that we don't get lost in dualistic thought, incorporated in the female is always the masculine principle. Always the masculine principle. Now, see, biologically, energetically, physically, materially, however you
Yep.
want to look at it.
That's it.
So, when we talk about water from an allegorical standpoint, we're talking about the divine feminine. But included in that is masculine as well, as the male as well. So just keep those two ideas uh, in mind. So the divine feminine would find its, or her, our greatest power by seeking and finding its, her, our lowest point. All right. So you have to have a knowledge of the ancient sciences of alchemy, of Kabbalah. These are all things that our ancient forefathers and ancestors, this is the knowledge that they held, of Gnosticism, of all of the esoteric uh, and occult traditions, that they, what underlies this, them rather, is these basic principles. And the one that is central, like I said, over the past few days, to all of them, is this aspect of the divine feminine and the fall of the divine feminine, or the plunge or plummet into the lower realm. Okay, that is an allegorical concept that is consistent throughout all cultures, ages, and even when, now see, the masculine replaces the feminine, it's still the same story.
Same story still, right?
Still the same story. So we're going to do a brief review of the allegory, and then we're going to um, hit the gas and explore this a little further. But this our understanding of this Gnostic tale of the Ion Sophia or the Pistis Sophia is central. It's essential, and everything is going to move within this framework. So, according to the allegorical narrative, the Ion Sophia, the divine creative source, sees a brilliant, shimmering light below. She flings herself downward into the darkness, mistakenly, according to the allegory. But this is wisdom, family. So wisdom can never be mistaken. But for us to understand this on human terms, mistakenly following what she believes to be her father's radiance. Major characters, the father and the woman, all right? The father and the daughter, the father and the son, all right? These are consistent throughout, especially the Bible, but throughout all allegories. We're going to tie this to the Bible, though, because it's our most familiar and the most recent and the most convenient source that we can use. And we're going to decode these symbols accordingly. Mistakenly following what she believes to be her father's radiance, deceived by a mere reflection. Well, what was being reflect? What was the reflective surface? When you know the allegory, you know that the reflective surface was what are called the waters below. The waters below. Okay, there in the abysmal, unrealized potential of the world, she is trapped, separated from the light, the spiritual realization of gnosis, the knowledge of transcendent unity, oneness, or wholeness. We're going to find out, family, that this age of gnosis is the age of knowledge that we have recently transitioned into. We transitioned from the age of belief into the age of gnosis or the age of knowledge. We're going to find out, and this is something that was revealed to me in a real time experience, that you will accomplish nothing in this age by, by belief. That is we talked about this yesterday when I mentioned.
That's an absolute there.
Mhm. This is an absolute rule. You will not be allowed to bring belief into into the higher frequency uh, field of dominance.
Right.
We're moving into the higher echelons of consciousness. And I'm not going to prevent you. Nasik is not going to prevent you. This is this is not it's not hierarchical like that, Nasik. Nobody
No.
can prevent you except for your higher consciousness, your own higher consciousness is going to, through life experience, through failure, through negative life experience, it's going to prevent you from rising with this notion of belief. I mentioned incarnation. It don't matter whether you believe it or not, family.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It is a part of this. And until you accept that, you're going to stay stuck right where you are. You must accept that not as a factor of belief or non-belief, but just as a fact, just as a factor of knowledge. I mentioned, you know, that Aretha Franklin spoke to me. I don't care if you believe that or not. It's not for you to believe or not. If you are waiting to convince yourself to believe it, then you'll be stuck that long at
Yes.
that point. Do you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
This is about knowledge. And if
Yes.
there is no knowledge in incarnation relative to the overall framework, if there's no knowledge that is being presented relative to, Aretha Franklin, Miss Aretha Franklin, then it has no value. But if it is bringing knowledge, you from a higher consciousness standpoint, you must accept it. You must
Yes.
accept it because it fits in.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be talking about that a little further. But there was a tremendous life experience that occurred just within the last few days, and was pinpointed yesterday, and it was a tremendous teaching moment. You will not be able to bring belief along with you. None of that low frequency stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That is another age. That is part of an old paradigm. The old paradigm has ended. It has
Yes.
ended. We'll talk about that a little bit further. So there, as the divine feminine, as we fail into the dualistic physical material realms, there in the abysmal, unrealized potential of the world, we, is trapped. We are trapped, separated from the light, the spiritual realization of gnosis, the knowledge of transcendent unity, not the belief, the knowledge of transcendent uh, uh, unity. Follow this now. There, the forces of this underworld have their way with her, with us, using us, abusing us, exploiting us, until we know, till all we know is sadness in the struggle to return to ourselves, up to the light which we have lost. Are y'all feeling me?
Dang.
But not forgotten. She gives birth to a bunch of bad boys, demigods called archons. Now, these are just family, um, they are just low frequency manifestations of our low frequency vibrations, thoughts, feelings, actions, life experiences, including the worst of all, the demiurge, who becomes the fabricator or artisan of this underworld. Understand that this is not happening outside of ourselves, but inside of ourselves. This is describing an internal experience, energetic experience, which is compromised of and at the same time energized by a vertically integrated, hierarchically arranged network or field of low frequency negative thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions, and potentially life experiences. But Sophia remains ever present, and that is the divine aspect of us remains ever present. And in her, our resurgent power, she brings great beauty and spiritual divine potential to the earthly realm and its inhabitants, witnessing the irresponsible creation of the world by her errant offspring. Sophia conceals consciousness in the body of the demiurge's first man, Adam, and then brings it into the world as Eve. Very important that we understand this. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about something that is very important. It is called the Word. The Word. We have not understood this fully. The Word. And for those of you that were on earlier, we discussed this a little bit. Finally, Sophia breaks free her breaking free, family, and ascending back to the true light of life was the inception of the age of knowledge. It marked the ending, and I'm going to show you exactly where that occurred in history. It marked the ending of the age of belief and the inception of the age of gnosis, or the age of knowledge. Is everyone with me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Raising fallen divinity with her ever so slightly over time, within the space time physical material matrix. But she refuses to abandon the sad world of humans, and so divides herself, keeping part below, ever present and available for the enlightenment of all. A part below, that is a part, that is this divine spark that we talked about, that is within all of us. This divine spark. Another way of saying that is this imparted grace, using a biblical term. Imparted grace, a divine spark within us all. The divine feminine, this resurgent power, this nikeva that we're going to talk about, this nikeva, which is the feminine, means female, the female aspect, which attempts at all times to pierce, perforate, bore, to strike through the illusion. Is everyone with me?
Dang.
Yeah.
Here we may call that Gaia, the consciousness of the world. Back up in the celestial realm of spiritual light, Sophia rediscovers Gnosis by joining her twin brother in a marriage. See, if you're looking at this from a dualistic standpoint, looking at this, if you're looking at this from a human standpoint, if you're looking at this from the standpoint and through the eyes of scientific, perceptual, social engineering, you're gonna see something wrong with a sister marrying her brother. Because
Mm-hmm.
we still got this idea, this false
Yes.
idea of what marriage is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And shows.
Still got this false idea of what
Mm-hmm.
marriage is.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna deal with that later. Sophia rediscovers Gnosis by joining her twin brother in a marriage of reunification, balancing the masculine ego of unrealized potential and uniting it with the sacred feminine. That's solving the dualistic equation
Yes.
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
dominant here.
Mm-hmm.
Uniting it with the sacred feminine, made ever more powerful by the adverse experience, made ever more powerful by the adverse experience of her abysmal descent or plummet into the lowest depths, Malkuth, the underworld. This is what we said. The Zen saying is speaking of, family. This is what that Zen saying is. Water finds its greatest power by seeking its lowest point. So this plunge was not a mistake. It was not due to deception. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It was a prescient act. It was a perceptible act. It was divine and it was deliberate. All right. It says, made more powerful by the adverse experience of her abysmal descent or plummet to the lowest depths, Malkuth the underworld, into an androgynous hole. a complete person infused with and empowered by the knowledge, again, of the transcendent unified light. This is nothing that requires belief at this point, family.
Right. Yes.
Your belief is not welcome here. If you are waiting to if you are waiting to see whether you believe, try to convince yourself to believe it or not, you're gonna miss the boat. You're gonna miss the boat. Literally, you're gonna miss the
Mhm.
boat. So again, we want to look at this. I found another article as I was, seeking a deeper, broader, wider understanding for myself, and it was a post that is entitled "This Post Guarantees Enlightenment." Isn't that funny? The
Mhm.
Yeah.
return of the divine feminine. So this everything is working out perfectly for us, family,
Yes.
at the perfect time. So this is something that we didn't, of course, this is new, but it's going to, I guarantee you, enlighten you further on this subject of the return of the divine feminine. And this, Nasi, is this, it's going to give us a timeline um, that we have visited before,
Yeah.
and a framework in terms of history that we pointed out to you all before, and you'll see. Early Christianity was incredibly diverse. This is first century, family, first century, and within the last roughly Nasik about 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
Early Christianity was incredibly diverse. The Gnostics were just one of many so-called Christian groups that venerated feminine aspects of the divine. Venerate, not worship, but venerated, pointed out that they were important. In the third and fourth centuries, and now see you know exactly what this is. In the third and fourth centuries, we've talked about this before. You brought it out before.
Right. Right.
When these alternative Christianites, with their divine figures of God's wisdom, God's consort, the Lady of the Temple, and a feminine Holy Spirit, family,
Mhm.
fell out of favor for a very much God is a dude approach. And, again, we keep talking about it, even with the Hebraic uh, uh, expression of the divine name, the so called divine name, quote, end quote, Yud He Vav He, it is Yahuwah. And we had mentioned again yesterday that that's feminine, AH. It's
That's
feminine.
feminine. Right.
Mhm.
And it was feminine, this whole idea, this divine feminine aspect was in ascension at one point. But a changeover to God is a dude approach, a very interesting thing happened. Devotion to Mary. This is the early church, devotion to Mary, the mother of Jesus, and devotion to the female saints suddenly rose in prominence. Suddenly rose in prominence. This is historic, family. You can go back and look at it. You can go
especially in the
back.
Catholic Church.
Yeah, and that's what we relegated to. We relegated
Yep,
that just to the Catholic Church. But this is something
right.
that was organic that happened. And this is what I want to point out. Now, here we go,
Oh,
Nasi.
oh,
Here we go. Much later in Europe, when it was codified that women, it was codified that
Uh-huh.
women were second class people. The image of the suffering crucified Jesus with bountiful milk giving breasts appeared. When they tried to make women and femininity second class people, all of a sudden, the image of the suffering crucified Jesus with bountiful milk giving breasts appeared. There go our ancestors at work again.
Right.
Yeah.
In other words, they don't care what the Catholic Church, Mennonite Church, whatever church, or they don't care what they was doing. They was on what they was on. Put it that way. Then long after, listen, long after that, when the Protestant Reformation kicked out Marian devotion, and we all know Protestant mystics started having visions of the divine Sophia. They're
Hmm.
Wow. Right.
going to bring this in anyway, not concerned with what is going on in the in the larger historic framework. And on it goes with many more examples that one could slot before, between, and after. You can't keep a good woman down. She is always going to try. The divine feminine is always what? Trying to break through violently, to
They turn
perforate.
around and reverse it and say you can't keep a good man down, huh?
That's right. Trying to puncture through. And these are our little breadcrumbs that once we're enlightened, once we become conscious, once we become aware, we can go back and trace this. This is what we're doing. You can't keep a good woman down. The more we try to push her away or to push her down, the more she breaks into this world. So let's go to the 1800s. Here we go, Nasi.
There we go. Here we go.
To the 1800s, to another epoch shaking experience of the divine feminine, which would change everything forever. The 1800s.
Yeah.
So we already know what was going on during that time to reverse this thing. The Gnostic
Yeah.
Church, the Gnostic Church returned to the world in a dramatic fashion in France at the end of the 19th century. Now, we've already, family, focused in on this 19th, 20th century, those phenomena that occurred, and they were very powerful. Y'all remember we went all the way back, Nasi,
It
to,
went all the way back. Right.
to the to Reconstruction
Yeah.
and Jim Crow, and then the
Yeah.
1920s. Listen,
Right.
to the 1920s, and we saw how the Roaring Twenties.
Yes, we
Get ready to
did.
talk about this word now. We're getting ready to give you more depth on this word, the word, how the Roaring Twenties, this time of prosperity, culturally, socially, economically, was introduced by jazz. It was called the Jazz Age, was it not?
Yeah.
Okay, put a bookmark there. So around this particular time, now see, this was worldwide.
Yes. Yes, he did.
France, at the end of the 19th century, when an archivist named Jules Dionel had a vision of Sophia,
Uh huh.
the prime feminine figure in many Gnostic systems, empowering him to restore the Gnosticism in an organized public way. Now, ask me if Jules uh, Dornell, was that a brother? It don't matter. Remember, these individuals were custodians of the knowledge, right?
Custodians of the knowledge.
And this happened so that at this point in time, family, we could look back at this
Yeah.
and trace this movement energetically.
Ben-Ami called it ancient wisdom in contemporary language.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Our stuff.
That's right. This is an attempt by our ancestors to preserve this knowledge that would assist us, that would be essential in assisting us in our rise, in our ascension, family. Can we see that?
Yeah.
It seems that Dionel and his fellow restorationists believed that the arrival of the Gnostic Church was the beginning of the New Age. Well, what New Age was that? We already said. What New Age was that, family? Come on now.
The age of knowledge.
Absolutely. One of knowledge. Gnosis. One of knowledge. Gnosis. And wisdom. Not belief. You're not going to be able to do this. Attempting to believe something. You're going to stay right where you are. I guarantee it. Which in the Greek is the word Sophia. And that this new time in human history was somehow one where women and the feminine would ascend. The sisters on this line, y'all knew what you was doing when you incarnated into this last little bit. This wasn't mere lip service or religious symbolism. Had nothing to do with religious symbolism, family. As Dioniel's church gave full ordination and leadership roles to women. Show me where this is evident in something you have been involved in. Nah. Many of us are still Nasik, and this has to do with this scientific, social, and cultural perception, social and cultural perceptual
Right.
engineering. All right? There are no leadership roles at the top echelons. Why? Because it is patriarchal. All of the systems are patriarchal. They're vertically integrated. They are hierarchical. Low frequency fields of dominance. They're products of the low frequency, hierarchical, vertically integrated, profoundly patriarchal fields of dominance.
Ah, boy, all the women of valor, they remember that you kneel that the man may rise.
Come on, man. Hey, that's an inversion. We're going to find this out. That's inversion. I'm going to tell you the true science.
Hey, absolutely.
That's right. A shocking and near unprecedented act in Western religion at that time.
Wow.
Near unprecedented. And though the struggle continues, it is interesting to note that the Gnostics' New Age has coincided with a rise of rights for women with a rise of rights for women that continues to this day. Now, remember, we saw the civil rights movement and all of that stuff. And black folks in America, we'll just call them like that, have not benefited the most by all of the civil rights marching and whatnot. The people, the groups that have benefited the most is women first and homosexuals second. Am I lying?
Yeah.
Black people are still basically in the same position. Look, say something. Look at the Me Too movement. Look at the gay rights movement and compare it to Black Lives Matter. They still shooting down black men, women, and children in the street on videotape. You say something sexist or against homosexuals, you let it come out your mouth, your career is ruined.
It's ruined.
Put your hand on a woman
Yeah.
in an inappropriate way. Look what happened to Bill Cosby. Whether you
Yeah.
like it or not,
Yeah.
those women's rights groups destroyed that man. What happened to the killer, the murderer of Tamir Rice? I'll wait for the answer. Sandra Bland. What happened to? See, we was on the wrong thing. We're not looking at things from an energetic perspective.
Eitai, just to connect another piece up to it, based upon quote unquote the scientific social engineering perception of inverted energy and how it played, into the simulated reality. Let's go back to when Clarence Thomas was
Yes, sir.
you understand? So
Right.
we can see how the law now and how the president got behind him, pushed him past that and down to the sisters. But from that point on, it shifted.
That's correct.
From that on, the shift took place.
Very important, Nasi. Very important.
Yeah.
So now again, we're not advocating anything cultural or societal. We just know that it reflects in that.
Yeah.
We're not advocating women's rights and gay rights, nothing like that, or even rights for black folks. We're not looking at that. That is a distraction. We have to, from a holistic standpoint and from a higher consciousness standpoint, focus on the energetic nature.
That's right.
That cause these things to manifest.
Right.
This is what we're doing, fam. We want to be clear about that. To be a Gnostic, and we're not even pushing the Gnostic religion like that.
No.
This is our science that found its way into a religion, into a church. To be a Gnostic is to partake in this elevation of the divine feminine, the elevation of the divine feminine. We're looking at this from an energetic standpoint. And to join in the work of this new age. No, we're not advocating that type of work, joining something. We're advocating doing the work internally from an energetic standpoint. That is the work.
That's correct. That's correct.
Be this new ion something decreed by God or merely existing in our hearts and imaginations. And that is where it exists. In the hearts and our imaginations, family. That is how all this happened. This whole world came into existence. This whole physical world came into existence as a result of the thoughts and imaginations and desires of the divine heart. Of the divine heart. This is basic science you're going to see as we continue to learn this. Dioniel received this message from Sophia, and I get goosebumps every time I read these words. Now, this is the transmission that he got. I address myself to you because you are my friend, my servant, the prelate of the Albigensian church. Now, see, I have this word Albigen. I have research on that a little bit. We'll get to that a little bit later.
Uh-huh.
It's etymologically connected to our science again. I am exiled from the pleroma. That means fullness. Remember, we talked about this. From the
Mhm.
pleroma. That means fullness, wholeness, oneness. And it is I whom Valentinus named Sophia Achamoth. It is I whom Simon Magus called Helene Enoia, for I am the eternal androgyne rather. Look, Jesus is the word of God. I am the thought of God. Are y'all seeing how this plays out?
Yeah, you see it, right?
One day I shall remount to my Father, but I require aid in this. Listen, brothers. Listen, sisters. I require aid in this. It requires the supplication of my brother Jesus to intercede for me. So it's not the females
Right.
bow down and supplicate themselves to the male. It's inverted.
Yeah, we can see it.
Come on now.
We can see it.
We're gonna fit this all into the framework. Now see, because during the we've shown you during the uh period of slavery and indentured servitude
Service.
in the
Mm-hmm.
Americas. This goes back now, see, to the videos that you sent me,
Right.
and how our understanding of that was imperfect. It was
Yep.
feminine, and we said this, that bowed herself down
Right.
within the space time. Look, within the space time realms of the physical universe, the divine, the cosmic, historic, what? Bending of the knee.
Right.
So now, at this point, this all happened now, see, within the framework of the kingdom age.
Absolutely.
So the feminine
Right.
is down. Why she got to
Right.
bend down some more?
Right. Right.
It is the male that must supplicate, that energy
Right.
that must supplicate in order to what? Cause this divine buoyancy that is going to power our ascension.
Boy, you can see this. This is profound. This is really profound.
Now see, it either fits, it don't require belief. It either fits, you can either see that it fits into the framework that we
Yes,
were
it does.
given at the outset of this, or it doesn't.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So it requires the supplication of my brother, Jesus, to intercede for me. The male aspect must supplicate itself because now see, it's been patriarchal,
It's been patriarchal.
and that has profoundly impacted our perception.
All this is during the age of deception.
That's correct.
which was the inversion of the knowledge of wholeness into duality.
That's correct. It all follows, family. It all follows.
Yeah,
It doesn't require you to believe it. It just requires you to educate yourself and
yeah, and understand
and to master this knowledge that is being put on view before you. Belief, you can't bring it with you. It is not allowed. Just not say fit the pieces of the puzzle together based on the picture that we were given. That's on the
it. Right.
cover of the box. Only the infinite is able to redeem the infinite. Man, that's
Right.
a powerful statement.
Mm.
And only God is able to redeem God. You can't nobody redeem you. You got to redeem yourself. Listen well. The one has brought forth one, then one, and the three are but one. Holistic, holistic science, now see.
Yeah.
The Father, the Word, and the thought. These things are but one. Establish my Gnostic church. The demiurge will be powerless against it. The demiurge, that is that lower frequency, negative field of dominance, hierarchical field of dominance, will be powerless against it. Receive the paraclete. Now, let's go to the scripture as we move forward. Because now, see, this transmission or message establishes the framework for some very mysterious and cryptic scripture verses, but we're going to have perfect clarity on them. For there are three that bear record in heaven:
All right.
the Father, which is the Son,
Son.
which is the holistic source, the Word, which is
Mm.
Jesus, and the Holy Spirit,
Right.
thought, represented by Sophia, wise, knowledgeable thought. And these three are one. And there are three that bear witness in the earth, as above, so below. The Spirit, listen, the water, what do we start talking about? Water has to seek its lowest depth, right? And the
Right.
blood, these three agree as one. We're going to expound upon this. And this is going to lead us right into Aretha Franklin and what she represented. We're going to get higher knowledge on this. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Did Miss Aretha Franklin dwell among us, family?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And we're gonna broaden our understanding on what this Word is. And we beheld her his glory. And the glory was of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace. There's our word grace and truth.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're not talking about, now I don't want to get we're not talking about worshiping Aretha Franklin or worshiping Jesus or anything like that.
Come on, Eitai.
When they talk about venerating it, it means to put your focus on it from a holistic, top down, enlightened position. This is the only way that we can talk about this. So
Yeah.
this word, now see, energetically is just a vibrational frequency that precedes transition and change, that precedes elevation from one level to the next.
Okay, Eitai.
A sound or a vibrational frequency has to precede that. And
Has to.
whether it is a famous, world famous person or not, this sound must come out into the ether to create, to activate, Nasi, all
Right.
four elements. It has to
Right.
impact the ether. The ether
Have to.
is representative of the union, the fusion of all four earth elements.
There you go. There you
So in
go.
order, I'm telling y'all the science, family.
There you go.
So these particular sounds, whether they're made by a famous person or not, they come out musically, harmonically, rhythmically, and linguistically, Nasi, in the form of spoken knowledge, in the form of lyrics, in the form, Do David, of poetry.
Right. That have to what? Bring forth substance for the verification of that union.
Absolutely. And the activation
Right.
of
Right.
those unified elements.
Right.
Does it make this is science. This is our science. This is alchemy.
Yeah.
So let's look at this, family. And I want to play for you what I played for before we started the class here. See, it wasn't just Aretha Franklin and Marvin Gaye and people like that, you know, and Bessie Smith and these individuals at these particular times that were bringing this sound, but they were, because they could carry this sound worldwide, they're important. But even locally, you had individuals, Nasi, that represented the word made flesh, that put this vibration out. So I want to show you this young man named Larry Wright that in 1990 uh, got some notoriety. And, he had appeared on some television shows. I even think he had a commercial, like for Pepsi or Coke or one of the popular, um, big products. But this is this word, family, that was in this boy that had to come out in this young man.
We're talking about somebody we're talking about a little 14-year-old boy that took a compound can out of the garbage.
He took a compound can out of the garbage because he had to get this sound out.
Wow.
Had to go into the ether, family.
To bang on something is something different, but to drum and make music out of that compound can is just beyond my recognition.
Something else going on. Even his mother said that. She said, some beyond my recognition. But this is this word being made flesh.
Yeah.
And whether it's something that goes viral or worldwide, it don't matter. This teaching, Nasi, that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, we do it whether they are going to hear or forbear. It is not necessary that no one hears this. Look, if no one got on this line, if y'all stop tomorrow, guess what? I would still be recording and putting these things out in YouTube. I have that urgency within me.
can.
It must go out into the ether. Are you all with me now?
Must
It
go
must go
out.
out into the ether. And if I can't, if I lose, if I can't pay my electric bill and I can't record and go on YouTube, I would be sitting in the room banging on my compound can. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be talking to somebody about this, even if I just gotta say it in the air. And we're gonna take a look at another commercial. But
Larry has been around a lot of music. When he was like 3 months old, I sing, and I used to take him with me to rehearsals. Whatever object was near him, he would take it in his hands and just plank, a 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 plank.
that word had to be made flesh, family. That is the divine feminine, Nasi, that is always what? Trying to rise with resurgent energy and perforate the ether to aid in the rise.
I made it up myself, self-taught. What his goals are is to be the most and the best drummer in the world. That's his thought. That's his dream. To be the best drummer in the world. That's like a Latin beat. And then this one, and I will go like this.
All right, y'all quit moving now.
That's the African beat. And my hip hop beat is like this. See that? And then I got another African beat when I go.
Look at the guy with the Batman hat on. He can't hardly sit still now, see?
Right.
That spine wants to move.
Yeah,
Wants
yeah.
to it wants to that serpent wants to be charmed.
Yeah, buddy.
That kundalini energy wants to move, wants you to move that backbone. Shake that tail feather. Shake it to the east, shake it to the west. Look at the brother. Had to hug him. That is the word made flesh, family.
Yes, it is.
I want you all to hear me. Now, I'm going to show you another one that I showed. Um, this commercial for Pioneer Home Stereo Electronics that was done in 1977. And it just shows you this is the feminine energy that always wants to perfect and penetrate. Are you all with me? And express itself and to become flesh, to get into that ether.
This uncompromising dedication to music is something Pioneer understands. So we design our hi-fi components to let you get everything out of music that a musician puts into it. That's what's made up.
Hold on. This is Sonny Rollins, and this is a commercial he made for Pioneer back in '77.
In 1959, after 12 years of success, a great jazz saxophonist decided he wasn't good enough. Sonny Rollins dropped out of the music business. Night after night, he stood alone on the Brooklyn Bridge and practiced. For months, he blew his music to the stars. And when he felt the time was right, Sonny Rollins came back to his public. Since then, his records have earned the highest acclaim. And today, Sonny Rollins is, at last, good enough.
Had to put that into the ether.
Had to put it out there.
And had to put it, this word, see, we've only understood this because it was in the Bible. And because of this scientific, social, cultural, religious engineering, perceptual engineering, we have only understood things, family, from a religious concept. So when we talked about this, the Christ, the messianic legacy, messianic energy, the rise of the Messiah, these sort of things, we only, and even Sophia, we've only understood these things and perceived them from a profoundly religious standpoint.
Absolutely, right. Everybody's foundation.
That is holistic. That is
Mm.
holistic, finding categories for things. And even within music, finding categories for music. But Miles Davis, he abhorred that. And he said it's just one, it's sound. It's the word, family. Symbolically, it's the word made flesh. And so now we can understand this particular manifestation of Sophia within the divine Miss Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. Does it make sense? So this session, and we won't go back over it in detail. We're going to move forward a little bit today. I titled the Kingdom Malkuth Life, starring Miss Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. The life and times of Miss Aretha Franklin was the perfect real-time flesh and blood embodiment of a descendant aspect of Sophia. That is the natural woman who manifested, incarnated at the lowest point of our prophetic descent into Malkuth, the kingdom. So again, we began this by decoding this Zen saying, water finds its greatest depth, its greatest power rather, by seeking, descending, plummeting to its lowest point, its lowest point. So the transition, by her own words, that was impressed upon me, that her transition, family, created a void. It ended an age. It ended an age. It created a void and provided a vacuum or a space for the inception and the rise of not the natural woman, but the organic woman, which would be the whole person, the whole masculine, the whole man, family, the whole woman. Are you all with me now? So what we're going to do going forward, Nasi, is to take a look at this whole woman. And I'll transition by reading this. Miss Aretha Franklin's prodigious musical catalog, career, as well as her personal life, her personal life experience, soulfully embody and emotionally and passionately express the eternal the eternal rather and internal desire and longing of the divine woman, female, to reunite with her divine man, male. In this case, according to the Gnostic blueprint, it is Sophia joining with her what? Twin brother, Jesus, right? In marriage. Her music, as well as her life experience, each reflected and illustrated the variableness of life under the influence of a low frequency field of dominance, especially the joys and pains of the natural woman and natural man woman relationships within that dualistic environment. Am I making sense, family? Does this make sense so far? I guess I'm gonna have to take your silence as a yes.
Yes,
Okay, very good.
somebody had to open up. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Her transition, therefore, is emblematic of the departure of the natural woman, which creates an enormous cosmic vacuum or void that allows for the emergence and rise of the divine organic woman. So, to follow the Gnostic narrative that we began with, Sophia ends up being the giver of wisdom in so many forms. She is Shakti in Sanskrit. So, family, we're going to look at Shakti as we move forward in the study. The powerful Hindu personification of feminine wisdom and the personal and collective linking soul as Atman, realized in the transcended state of samadhi. We talked about this. Gnosis. She is the compassionate bodhisattva, and I'm not even going to try to say that word, in Buddhism, returning to light, the path to nirvana, gnosis, personified by the deity Guan Yin. And again, we're going to talk about all of this. We're going to visit all of these to give us a broader, deeper, more expansive understanding of this. She is both Mother Mary in her ascendant form and Mary Magdalene, the prostitute, as the earthly companion of Christ potential in Christian Gnosticism. In Jungian rather philosophy, she is the unifying power, individuation of both the feminine masculine archetypes, anima and animus, and of the lower self of psyche and the higher spiritual self of gnosis. In the framework of the descent, family, we got to go to the lowest point physically, energetically, spiritually, materially, economically, religiously, socially, culturally, however you want to think about it, in order to reach our greatest power. That is called negredo, complete and total decomposition, disintegration in every aspect in alchemy. All right, this is a divine alchemical process, if you want to put it that way. So, the word made flesh relative to the natural woman transition. So let us now get a full understanding of the organic woman, all right? The ascendant woman that must manifest at this at this point in time, at this prophetic point in time. So, understanding, family, especially for the sisters, the females that are on, understanding the organic woman and reaching and knowing her is going to require a top down holistic look at yourself energetically, emotionally, biologically, and physically. We're going to find out that our understanding of all of this is woefully incomplete, woefully incomplete. And it had to be that way, incomplete and imperfect. And it had to be that way under such a profound experience of this plunge, of this plummet, of this inversion, of the dominant influence of this field, this low frequency field or low frequency network. So we're going to look at this word, just follow again this word void, because believe me, I'm all over the place in terms of this knowledge, how it was recorded. So bear with me. And I want to get to one particular point in this because we're going to get ready to close. And as we looked at this word becoming flesh, family, we'll start here. This word becoming flesh. We want to look at the allegorical tale of Jesus and begin here. I just want you to look at the symbols. We did this the other day. These symbols that correspond to the anatomy of both males and females. The Hebrew word meor, in terms of its grammatical construction, means in Hebrew it literally means lights, but the construction of it, ma'or, remember this letter mem that we started out with, mayim, mem, refers to water. So ma, which is short for mama, mommy, right, means water, light. The letter mem, water, plus or, light, ma'or, and refers not only to the eyes of the head above, but also the eye below, the vagina, the yoni, the vulva, etc., in the body of the female. So we're going to tie these things together within the allegory as it relates to Jesus. Now remember, Jesus is not necessarily a masculine figure. Think of it in terms of masculine and feminine. So let us look at the anatomy, the most important part of the female anatomy, the most defining part of the female anatomy, and that is the yoni, that is the vagina, the vulva. okay? And it's going to lead us into a more perfect understanding of this divine woman and how this energy is going to emerge, how we're going to utilize this knowledge to ascend, to create buoyancy. All right? This is very important. This is the how-to section of it. But we have to get educated on ourselves from a top-down holistic perspective. The yoni is Sanskrit for vulva or abode or source, more importantly. This is, family, your energy source, divine energy source, divine energy source is a stylized representation of the goddess Shakti in Hinduism. Listen, within Shaivism, the sect dedicated to the god Shiva, the Shakti symbolizes his consort or complementary polar opposite. Now remember, we said that in that transmission or message from the Ion Sophia, she said that the brothers, the female, the male divine aspect would have to aid in the ascension or rise of the feminine. Are you all with me? So there's going to have to be this divine union or this divine and or divine interaction between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Keep this in mind as we go forward. And indeed, it says the union of the yoni and the lingam, that is the penis or the phallus, represents the eternal process of creation and regeneration of all existence. That means that these divine masculine and feminine elements are going to be essential to the creation of the new heavens and the new earth. In art and sculpture, this is represented by a cylinder resting within a spouted dish. The yoni is considered to be an abstract representation of Shakti and Deva. It's also an abstract representation then of Sophia, or the divine feminine, divine wisdom, the creative force that moves through the entire universe. In Hindu philosophy, according to Tantra, yoni is the origin of life. And we read that allegorically in the myth or the tale of the hypostasis of the archons, or the tale of the pistis or ion Sophia. We've already covered that from the beginning of this particular recording. In Indian religions, according to the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita, yoni is a form of life or a species. Listen, this is the word becoming flesh now. This is another way of saying it. There are 84 million yonis, with Manusya yoni, human species, as one of them. So this is just talking about that the emanation process. The Manusya yoni is just a way of expressing the fact that we will fall into more human form from our divine origins, that we would fall during the plummet, during this prophetic plummet, that we would fall into the human form and manifest as Manushya Yoni, a human species that has divine connections to the source, the original source, Manushya Yoni. A human has obtained a human is obtained on the basis of good karma deeds, before which a human goes through various forms of yonis. For example, incarnating as an insect, a fish, a deer, a monkey, etc. Bad karma will lead to one born in a rakshasa yoni, evil form. The birth and rebirth, or the life cycle of a human, happen in various yonis and through various yonis. A human who achieves moksha breaks the cycle of reincarnation and adjoins Brahma, goes back to the source, goes back to the Father, Brahma, or Father Abraham. Remember, in the New Testament, when the man died, he was seen in the vision or in that allegory in the bosom of Abraham, that
Right.
he had
Right.
joined Brahman. See, all of these terms are related phonetically, if not just etymologically. They're related phonetically. Brahman is Abrahman, Abraham. All right. All you got to do is move the words around a little bit more. A little bit more. In Shaktiism, the yoni is celebrated and worshipped during the Ambubaki Mela, an annual fertility festival held in June in Assam, India, which celebrates the earth's menstruation. Now remember, Sophia, listen, Sophia in the fall, the divine feminine, became Gaia, the earth, which is the energetic soul or consciousness of the earth, which symbolically is the divine trapped in what? Physical form. And it is manifested, family, from a holistic top down perspective, not as just the earth, however you see it, but the earth, everything in it, everything on it that crawls on it or flies above it. This Nasik is the holistic and comprehensive aspect of a void being created in Genesis 1 and 2, and
Right.
everything filling it as manifestation of divinity. Are you all with
That's the void.
me? It is one of the most important pilgrimage sites in the world. How many people knew that? Attracting millions of visitors each year. We never knew this,
Nope.
particularly for Ambubaki Mela, which draws upwards of 100,000 pilgrims per day during the 4-day festival. They don't never put this on television, never broadcast. Darshan at this temple is performed not by sight as most temples, but by touch. Listen, this is very important, family. There is a large cleft, a yoni, in the bedrock moistened by water flowing upward from an underground spring. This has direct correlation to the feminine biological body construct. All right? The body is what? The temple of God. We've heard this.
And we've heard it. Sure heard it.
But we've stayed away from the most godly aspect of the temple of the body, and that is the reproductive aspect, which is just like God, is it not?
Yes, it is.
So we've been poorly and imperfectly educated on this, family, and programmed. It's generally covered by cloths and ornate chunneries, flowers, and red cindor power. Devotees and pilgrims offer items of worship directly to the goddess. Then, family, touch her. This is our divine science. I'm just letting you know on how to raise Shakti, Kundalini, ascension energy and achieve buoyancy. Directly to the goddess, then touch her. Drink water, do wine juice from the spring. Now, I want to follow this now because this symbolism of the yoni is encoded in the eye of God, which we see in the palm of the hand of the Hamsa. Remember, the God in Shakti veneration is touched.
Right, right.
It's touched. This is our ancestors telling us about the science of this, family. The eye, relative to the lacrimal tear duct of the human eye, is the correlative anatomical equivalent of the clitoris of the human vagina or yoni. Take careful note of this, family. If you've been taught this before, stop me right here. Not only are both the eye and the vagina tear-like or a ma'or or water-like in shape, but they each are capable of producing an abundant flow of water, moisture, or dew. Also, seeds and fruit.
Yeah,
Seeds and fruit. We're talking about the fruit of the womb.
you're right.
The fruit of the womb. See Shephatal above. When physically irritated, manipulated, or stimulated emotionally. This is basic science of reproductive energy as it relates to the physical or biological body, family. You know this, but you don't know it. But it is very basic and very simple. But now see, this
Uh-huh.
perceptual social engineering stands
Yeah.
in the way of this.
Took care of all of that business.
Take care of all of that. Continuing on, it is difficult to pinpoint the exact time when Hamas, that is the Hamsas rather, that is the hand with the eye in the palm, emerged in Jewish culture, though it is clearly a symbol of Sephardic nature. Jews might have used the Hamsa to evoke the hand of God to counteract the evil eye with the eye embedded in the palm of the hand. They did not want Nasik Shakti energy to be activated.
Right.
They did not want Sophia to resurge, to
No.
rise again, to puncture through the veil of illusion, to penetrate into the ethereal realm. Are you all with me? Some hamsas contain images of fish, another image of the yoni, in accordance with Rabbi Yosei, son of Hanini's statement in the Talmud that the descendants of Joseph who received Jacob's blessing of multiplying like fish or multiplying like seeds. Are you all with me?
Mm.
When you look at a seed, isn't it a yoni shape in most cases?
Yeah.
Or shaped like a teardrop? Received the blessing of multiplying like fish or fruit or seeds in Genesis 48 and 16, are protected from the evil eye like fish. He explains the water covers the fish of the sea, so the eye has no power over them. Again, trying to invert or innovate this process of the rise of the divine feminine. Other icons besides eyes and fish have also found their way in the Hamsa, including the Star of David, prayers for the traveler, the Shema, the blessing over the house, and the colors red and blue, both of which are said to thwart the evil eye. This is why the colors of the American flag have contained red and blue, because they want to thwart the rise of this divine power. The symbol of the hand, and often the priestly hands, appears in the Kabbalistic manuscript. So the hands, family, are going to be central to the raising and the application of this divine power. Also, because we're talking about the word, look, the tongue is going to be integral in this. Death and life are where?
Power of the tongue.
Come on now. Proverbs 18 and 21. Proverbs 18 and 21. Follow me here, family. We're just laying the groundwork again. And it's taken, I see, like 3 days to do this, because I'm quite aware of the profound effect of this programming, of this perceptual engineering. And we need to
Yeah.
bypass it. We need to bypass it because you're going to shortstop yourself in understanding the basics, understanding the basics that are fundamental to your rise. Hebrews 13. For there we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. That continuing city, we said, was the New Jerusalem, correct?
Yeah.
Zion, Bethel, the house of God, Bethlehem, the house of bread. All right? All of these are symbolic of the same thing. The new heavens and the new earth that we endeavor to create, to bring what? What is above below. To have our will, our intent, our purpose, which is in heaven, manifest within the physical realm. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
We seek one to come. By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise unto God continually. We're going to talk specifically about this as we get into the the specifics, the how to do of raising this energy, of raising this lowered feminine energy, Nasi, back up to the source, raising this feminine energy that we in our time period, the kingdom age, find at its lowest point, which is the position of its greatest power, raising it back up to the source. Is everyone seeing this now?
Yeah.
That is, now listen, the fruit of the lips, the fruit of the womb, the fruit of the lips, giving thanks to his name. This is the linguistic part of it
Yeah.
that we're going to talk about. And gratitude is going to be central to this. Family, I know this science, but you just follow along with me. And once you get it, put it into practice. I guarantee you'll get results. How do I know that? Because I'm getting the results. I know the power in this. But to do good, to communicate, forget not. For with such sacrifices of thanksgiving, of praise, God is well pleased. Your higher self, your divinity, is well pleased. This is highly esoteric. Highly esoteric. Hebrews 13. What is 13 symbolic of, family? What is the number 13 symbolic of in gematria? Gematria, I'm sorry. Remember, 12 is the number of control and governance and captivity under the low frequency field of dominance. 12 disciples, all right? Who was the 13th?
Jesus. Yeah, sure.
It represents Hebrews 13, Hebrews, the Christ
Mm,
energy. It's telling
right.
you that it's talking about the Christ energy and how to
Right.
raise it. All right? Now, we're going to get into, as we close, the early representations or the early manifestations of this knowledge in the Torah or the Old Testament scriptures. Behold, I stand before thee there upon the rock of Oreb, upon the rock of Oreb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, and the people may drink. Let me ask you all the question, just from a physical standpoint. Has anybody ever been punched in the eye or struck in
Yeah.
the eye accidentally
Mm,
on purpose? Did your eye water?
yeah.
Okay, that's striking the rock. That's striking the rock. Remember, the hand is central to this
Yeah.
from a biological standpoint as well as an energetic spiritual standpoint. This is all going to be made plain to you, family, I promise. Just bear with me. So the instructions at first, Nasi, was to smite the rock and get water out of it, but only the people would drink.
Right.
And Moses did so in the sight of the elders. Listen, in the sight of the elders. What do you see with?
Your eyes.
Come on now. This is all coded language.
Yeah.
Now, In Numbers 20, it says, take the rod. I'm going to show y'all the representation of the rod in the hand. You all know this. You all have come across it, but your understanding is not perfected. That's the rod in the hand. All right? In the hand of God. Take the rod. You see it's on fire, correct?
Yeah.
It's energized. Now remember, family, when Moses was going to liberate the divine feminine from captivity in Mitzrayim, he was afraid to do so. He wasn't really confident, correct? And God in the Bible asked him what? What is that in thine hand? And he said, it's a rod. And he said, cast it down. And what happened, family? Does anybody know?
It turned into a serpent.
It became a serpent. The rod is the male aspect that must be cast down to raise the feminine aspect. It must supplicate itself. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. You
Yeah, we do, Eitai.
stay with me. Stay with me, family. Stay with me. Stay with me. Is it making sense though? A little bit.
Absolutely, it's making sense.
Absolutely, it is.
It says, take the rod and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother. Don't use the rod in this case, but speak unto the rock before their eyes, before the sight of the elders, before their eyes. And it shall give forth, and it says, his water. His water. Come on now, we know that's not right. It's her water.
Right.
And thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock, so thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink, and water the plants, take a shower or a bath, provide for all your needs. When you what? Speak to the rock. Exodus 6 is a low frequency. And to put it plainly, it's just talking about reproductive sex, family, on a low frequency, under the low frequency field of dominance. In Numbers 20, it is talking about a metaphysical or alchemical process that is on a higher level. You've only known your bodies, men and women, on a low frequency, under the influence, rather, of the low frequency field of dominance, on a low frequency level. Numbers 20 is an elevation of that understanding and an elevation of the process as you transition from mere reproductive sex using the rod, are you all with me? To strike the yoni to a higher energetic process. We're going to get into it. This is the how-to portion, and it works. You see the eye, you see the vulva or the yoni, the eye of God, the vulva of the yoni, and speaking to the rod, we're going to see why this is so powerful. When you look at this picture, that is a picture of the vocal cords. Does it look like an eye? Does it look like an eye, family?
It
Yes.
does.
What kind of eye does it look like with the slit down the middle? Does it look like a human eye? It looks like a serpent's eye, does it not?
Uh-huh. Okay.
And it looks like the yoni as well, does it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
We have
It
not
does indeed.
we have not understood our body. We have not understood the reproductive power that we have from a somatic, bodily standpoint, physical standpoint. Speaking to the rock is more powerful than hitting the rock, than hitting it. Do y'all see that? The divine, creative, reproductive power of the mouth directly corresponds to the divine, creative, reproductive power of the yoni. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by this Word. And without the Word, you're not going to make nothing. You'll make a baby by mistake.
By mistake.
Is it becoming a little bit clearer, family?
Yes,
Mhm.
it is.
A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth. With the increase of his lips shall he be filled. Proverbs 8 and 20. I create, Isaiah 57 and 19, the fruit of the lips, also the fruit of the womb. Peace, peace, wholeness, wholeness to him that is far off from this understanding, and to him that is near this understanding, saith the Lord, and I will heal him. A closed mouth does not get fed. Closed vocal cords do not create. It is the same, Nasi, when we read in the scriptures where it said God closed up this woman's womb.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Right, Eitai.
I promise you we'll coordinate all this once we begin to know the divine science and how to apply it. In the meantime, family, look at these scriptures and meditate on them. Deuteronomy 30 and 14. You're going to get all this in the notes. Deuteronomy 30 and 14. But the word is very nigh unto thee in thy mouth and in thy heart, that thou mayest do it. Psalms 19 and 14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Look, only God can redeem God. Only the infinite can redeem the infinite, family. Isn't that what we said?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The heart of the wise teaches his mouth and addeth learning to where? His lips. Psalm 16 and 23. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart bringeth forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart bringeth forth that which is evil. Remember, we said, according to the law of karma, there was good karma that corresponded to a good yoni, right? And
Mm-hmm.
bad karma that
Mm-hmm.
corresponded to what? An evil yoni. This is this is what this verse is based on. That science, family. For out of the abundance of the heart, his what? Mouth speaketh. We got to coordinate and balance all of these body parts and energetic signatures in order to achieve buoyancy, family, in order to activate this feminine power of ascension. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, with the mouth confession is made what? Unto salvation. Romans 10 and 10. Again, with undergirded by this divine knowledge of coordinating speech as a reproductive with a reproductive organ, the most powerful physical source of reproduction that we have available to us. Be not rash with thy mouth, let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before whom? Your divinity. For God is in heaven and thou upon earth. See, we want to bring the will of God, our divine higher self, where? Into the earth realm.
Mm-hmm.
So you must do it by means of wise speech, the creative word. Therefore, let thy words be few. Me'at, ma'at. Ecclesiastes 5:12. We're going to begin here tomorrow, family, and we're going to get into again a deeper understanding of a very powerful creative reproductive tool and technique that we've been given. Sigil power.
Yes.
Do not overlook it. Do not overlook it. I'm telling you, this is why I keep bringing it up and emphasizing it. This is the most powerful weapon that you have in your hand right now. All right? I'm going to end here. This is where we're going to begin tomorrow. And we're going to get into the how to of this so that you all can put this in practice and begin in earnest this process of reversal, this process of empowering, and this process of achieving buoyancy within our ascension process. So we're going to end here. Ask if there are any questions or comments.